world, I know, can be difficult. We all know that. The world can be difficult. And sometimes we wonder why it's that way and why people are the way they are. Why aren't all people nice? After all, we feel that we deserve to have people treating us nicely. So let people be nice to us also. Why are they taking advantage? Why do people sometimes scowl? Why do they not smile at all times? And so on. And the question is, what can we do to make them understand that they have to behave better so that the world will become a better place? People can be harsh. Sometimes you will say that's even an understatement. Not everybody, but they can be. Sometimes they can be very harsh. And we want to make them understand that they have to be different. How do we do that? And the answer is the title of the lecture. It's not so much about them. It's all about you. That's what we're going to look at today. How we can change the world with kindness. That's how we start changing people. That it comes from us. That it originates with us. And when I say you, by the way, don't exclude me. I'm part of that, okay? We're in this together. So, if you want to make life kindlier, more friendly, it means that we're not fully happy with it, correct? Otherwise, why would you want to make it better? If it's perfect, why would you want to make it better? And I think most people want to make it better. So that means we want to make it a little better because we're not 100% happy with it. By that, I don't mean that anyone feels they want to leave the world right now. I don't think anybody wants that. Everybody wants to have a long life, a healthy life, but we want to somehow make the world better, that we don't have so many pressures and so many tensions and so many people aggravating us and all the different things that seem to happen in life. So we want to overcome some of the trials and tribulations where the world doesn't treat us as well as we feel it should be treating us. Especially when we have to deal with people for parnasah. We have no choice. We have to deal with them, and they're not so pleasant to us. Maybe they're downright nasty. But we want people to be different. We want health. We don't want health to go wrong. We want shidduchim to go smoothly. And we feel that maybe when things don't go so well, it's a little bit unfair. All right. You're not alone in thinking it may be a little bit difficult and a little bit, I don't know if the word unfair is the right one, but not the way we would like it to be. There is, of course, the famous Gemara in Eruvin, famous. For 2.5 years, 2.5 years, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, the houses of Shammai and the house of Hillel, were nihliku. They were debating. They had a difference of opinion. They went back and forth. Not for one session, for 45 minutes, maybe an hour, certainly not 10 minutes. 2.5 years. They discussed whether it would have been better for a person to have been born or better if he had not been born. And I think we know that after 2.5 years, Nimnu Egamru, they counted and they concluded. Now, these are big hachamim. Big hachamim deciding whether it would have been more Noah, more pleasant, better had we been born or not born. And these hachamim, the houses of Hillel and Shammai, counted and concluded it would have been better not to have been born. But now that we've been born, yefashpesh b'ma'asa, we have to look closely at all our deeds. What on earth does this mean? What are we saying here? I want to explain this to you derech mashal. Chacham Yosef Haim alav shalom, the holy Ben Ish Hai, says in his holy work Benayahu, he gives us a story. It's a story about a king who lives in an amazing city. The Ir HaBirah, the capital city of his kingdom, is an amazing city. It has everything you could possibly want. Everything in plenty. It has food, it has gardens, it has water, it has flowers, it has everything you could possibly want. To say nothing of the arts and the culture, whatever people are into. It had everything. However, one of his countries, one of his lands, somewhere else was giving him a hard time. And he had to send a couple of his servants to that place. Now that place epitomized everything that was horrible, awful. There was a lot of disease. The people were downright nasty. The weather was terrible. There was hardly any food there on the shelves. You know, that's a big deal. I remember asking somebody who used to work for us many years ago, they'd come from the former Soviet Union. And I said to him, what was your first impression when you came to America? He says, we walked into the supermarket and there was food on the shelves. That was an impression that never left him. So we can imagine what this place was like. It was almost desolate, but the people were nasty and there was disease. People were getting sick. People were dying on the streets. And the king says to two of his servants, I have to send you there because you have to take care of the matter. He says, and I want you to know you're going to be there not for a week or two. You're going to be there for 7 years. But I know it's difficult, but at the end of that time, you do a good job. You're going to come back here, and I'm going to give you amazing properties and estates to live in, amazing palatial homes with streams running through them, and I will take care of your every need forever. It will be amazing, but first, you have to go and do the job for me. So after a long, arduous journey, these two servants arrive at their destination. They are horrified. But nevertheless, one of them rolls up his sleeves and starts doing the job that the king wanted to do. His friend refused. He sat down and cried and lamented and complained, and he said, this is the most horrible experience. I can't stand this. This is awful. His friend who was working says, why are you doing this? Why don't you just, knuckle down and do the work? He says, what are you talking about? Do you know how horrible it is here? He says, I agree with you. He says, but we're here. Since we're here, we have to do the job, right? So why don't you do the job and think about what's going to be after 7 years and the prize that you're going to have. And his friend said, I don't care about the prize. I would rather not be here and not get the prize. His friend said to him, I hear that. Don't go through this and don't get the prize. However, you are here and you are staying here for the full 7 years, in which case you might as well get down to work, do what the king is asking of you, and get the prize. Because if you don't, you'll still suffer through this, it won't be any better, and you'll have nothing at the end of the day. You're right. Chachamim tell us it would have been better had we not been born. But we are born. So we have to knuckle down and do what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us to do, so that the promise that he gives us, that at the end of our lives in Olam Haba, it will be something amazing. In my family, the whole concept of attitude, instead of saying, why are we here, but rather saying, we're blessed. Thank God we're in this world. Thank God we have this. Thank God we have that. And thank God for everything else. And where does it come from? It doesn't come from me and it doesn't come from us. It comes from Alea Shalom, the Rabbanith. And after she left us, it became a big deal. When I say it's a big deal, it wasn't such a big deal then, because she was always doing it. It's enough that one person's doing that. Always looking at the good, always looking at how wonderful things are, always looking at how people are doing for you, how blessed you are. Even when she was totally sick, she was so blessed, she was so blessed, she was so blessed. Now that she's not doing that anymore, we're trying to pick up the pieces and do the same thing. We're not as successful as she is, but we're definitely trying to do that. So she had this incredible love of everybody else and gratitude that she showed for everybody else and to everybody else. And those of you who know her, and many of you did, know that that's exactly correct. Now, which comes first? It's the chicken and the egg story. We're put in this world, and we see there's a lot wrong in this world. There are people who are not behaving well with us. There are people who are not doing what we want them to do. On the other hand, if we have a good attitude, it's going to be beneficial because then we're going to be able to do what we have to do and then hopefully get reward for it. I want to read you something that I saw in Psychology Today. I don't usually hang out there, but this is something took me there. It was written by a lady called Amy Morin, who is a psychotherapist and an author. 7 scientifically proven benefits of gratitude. She says the following: while it may be hard to entirely avoid self-pity, mentally strong people choose to exchange self-pity for gratitude. And here are some of the benefits. You've got to hear this. Showing appreciation can help you win new friends. This was a 2014 study in emotion, whatever that is. If there are any psychologists here, forgive me. I'm sure you know what it is. The study found that thanking a new acquaintance makes them more likely to seek an ongoing relationship. When you meet somebody and you show appreciation to them or thank them, that person wants to continue the relationship much more than any other way. So whether you thank a stranger for holding a door or sending a thank you note, that acknowledgement can lead to new opportunities. I want to tell you a little story about opening a door. Many years ago, I was in Borough Park on 13th Avenue with my wife, and I think one of the kids was in a stroller. So that's going back a few years. And she went into some store or another, I don't know which it was, on 13th Avenue. And, you know, they have Russians working at the door. When you go in, they open the door for you. So he opens the door, she says, thank you. She goes in, takes care of whatever she wants to do. She comes back to go out, and he gets up, he opens the door for her, and as she's going out, and presumably thanking him again, he says to her, you know why I came back and I opened the door for you when you were leaving? She's a little surprised. She said, no, why? He said, because when you came in, you said, thank you. Now, a couple of things. I assume that once people in the store, he didn't bother opening the door for them anymore. You know, when they were in, they were in. You know, you welcome them in, you open the door. But the other thing is, what does that mean? Somebody opens the door for you and people are not saying thank you? I was shocked, and she was shocked. We have to be very careful that we don't do that. Gratitude, we're worried about health, improves physical health. Can you believe such a thing? Grateful people experience fewer aches and pains, according to another study published in Personality. Let's go to the next one. Gratitude improves psychological health. That I think we can appreciate, because if you feel grateful, you feel better. It reduces envy, resentment, frustration, regret. A gentleman by the name of Robert Emmons, a leading gratitude researcher, conducted many studies, and he confirms that it increases happiness and reduces depression. Look at this. You showing appreciation to another person, which is what it means, and letting them know that you appreciate it, makes you feel better. You. It's about you. What you're doing is making you feel better, not what the other person's doing. They could be doing the same thing. It enhances empathy and reduces aggression. Grateful people are much more likely to behave in a pro-social manner, even when others are less kind. This was a study by the University of Kentucky. And study participants who ranked higher on gratitude scales were less likely to retaliate. If a person was grateful, if somebody did something to them which wasn't nice, they were less likely to feel, oh, I got to let them have it. And a decreased desire to seek revenge, which of course is one of those emotions that the Torah forbids. Make it easy on yourself. Show gratitude. You won't have to fight that emotion so much. Look at this. Would you like a sleeping pill? Grateful people sleep better. There's another study published by Applied Psychology. Spend just 15 minutes jotting down a few grateful sentiments before going to bed, and you'll probably sleep better and longer. I want you to know, one of my daughters, my youngest daughter, was in seminary in Israel. She called me the other day, last week, and she said, you know, I'm looking around. She says, you know, things were hard. Maybe for her it was even the hardest because she was the youngest. And she said, you know, things were very hard. She says, but I look around me and I look at some of the others here and I see how difficult everything is for them. She says, and I feel so blessed. She says, you know what? I said, what? This is her mother's influence. Don't look at me. She says, you know what? I said, what? She says, I've decided every night before I go to bed, I'm going to write down at least 3 things that I was very grateful for that day. I said, God bless you. This is the most amazing thing. I'd love to hear some of them. She called today. I said, have you started doing that? I thought she said, I changed my mind. She said, yes. I said, it's amazing. Gratitude improves self-esteem. Now, this was published in the Journal of Applied Sport Psychology. Gratitude increased athletes' self-esteem, and that means they performed better. That means they did their job, and that means the same for you and me. If we have gratitude, that increases our self-esteem. Everything you do in life depends on your self-esteem. If you have self-esteem, when you do a job, you will do it better. Whether it's selling something to someone, whether it's leading the congregation, whether it's giving a lecture, whether it's, I don't know, polishing a car. It doesn't matter. If you have self-esteem, you will do it better. And you will play sports better. It increases mental strength. Not only reduces stress, but also plays a major role in overcoming trauma. This was a study published in Behavior Research and Therapy. They found that the Vietnam War veterans with the higher level of gratitude had lower rates of post-traumatic stress disorder. That's astonishing. Just because they were more grateful, they could overcome the terrible trauma that they saw, whether they were in the trenches or wherever they were. It's mind-boggling. It's a major contributor, gratitude, to resilience following the terrorist attacks on September 11th. People were able to say, I'm very grateful and thank you. We're able to get over September 11th, 7/11. That takes a little more to get over, but September 11th, that is just unbelievable. Our job is to show kindness to others. In other words, what do we want? We want people to show kindness to us, yes, but first our job is to show kindness to others. What did King David tell us? Olam hesed yibani. It's all about kindness, loving kindness. That's how the world has to be. That's how the world is built. It has to be built. But it sounds lofty to us. Build the world on kindness, on love. How are you going to do such a thing? I mean, we're ordinary people with our humdrum lives. We're going to build a world based on love and loving kindness. There's a story told by Maran Mordechai Eliyahu, alav shalom, in Debrei Mordechai, that I actually quoted maybe about a week ago in one of the Torah Minutes that we put out every day. I'm hoping most of you here get the daily Torah Minute. If you don't, please sign up or read them online at atorahminute.com. And it was one that I would like to share with you. It's about a man, a very simple man, who had a stall in Jerusalem in Mahane Yehuda. Mahane Yehuda, most of you know, is the shuk, how do you say shuk in English? Marketplace, thank you. I like shuk so much better. Or as you guys say, shuk. Okay, shuk. All right, so he had a stall there, but this, I imagine, was many, many years ago. Many years ago. And I want you to know my experience many years ago with Mahane Yehuda was terrible. It wasn't like it is today, those of you who saw it then. I remember my parents taking me when I was young. You know, now it's all paved. It's got roof, except the roofs, except in the middle, that main passageway in the middle is open, but the sides are covered. It used to be all mud and dirt. And if it rained, there was no cover. And your shoes got filthy dirty. And your pants, the bottom of your pants got filthy dirty. I hated going there. Maybe you went there twice. I said, I'm not going back there anymore. And then once, some years later, when I was studying there, I went on Erev Shabbat to get some bread. In those days, nowadays, sometimes they give you little plastic bags. They call nylon bags. They give them to you. But in those days, they gave you nothing. You had to take your own bag. And I didn't know that. And my Hebrew wasn't that good. And I used the wrong word for bag. And the guy starts screaming at me in front of everybody. You know, they love screaming over there. They shout at you. You walk down the street, they're shouting. I mean, that's the way they do business. They're shouting. This guy was screaming at me. I said, I'm not going back there. That's it. Don't talk to me. I'm not going back. My beloved wife, after we got married, one day takes me there. I said, well, it's not such a bad experience. You know, it's getting a little better and stuff like that. So now I go there. But I'm sure this was in the old days. And this guy had a stall where everybody was, and they're all shouting and screaming. But this guy was a super nice guy. He didn't shout at anybody. He spoke quietly. He spoke nicely. He sold herbs and spices that people used for medicinal purposes. They small, teeny-weeny amounts. And people liked to go to him because he had the reputation of being a very honest individual. And nobody likes to be, you know, to walk away feeling, I think I was cheated there. Nobody likes that feeling. Here, they didn't feel that way. So what would he do? People would come and they would want a little bit of this herb, a little bit of that spice, whatever. He would have a scale with two, I don't know what you call them in English. What? No, the plates, you know, whether they... Okay, whatever it is. So on one side, he would put a little paper bag that he would put the spices in, and on the other side, he had the weights. Now, the thing is this. Yeah, the scale, but what are the two, okay, whatever it is. So now, it doesn't matter, you know what I'm talking about. Let's not have a discussion about this. All right. So he puts a little paper bag on one side of the scale that he's going to put the spices in, and he has the weights on the other side. But wait a minute. For you and me, that's fine. But he said, that's not honest. They're buying the spices, not the paper bag. So he would put a paper bag with the weights to counteract the weight of the paper bag on the other side. You and I would argue, but you are paying for the paper bag. You're also getting a paper bag. But no, he said, no, they want what's in it. And that's what he did. And when he finished, he would then take a little more of the herbs and spices and sprinkle it in just to make sure that they had plenty. His logic was that if he would do so, God would watch him and do the same with the Jewish people, that even if they didn't deserve it, God would give them a little more. What we see here is that a very simple person can help build the world with love and kindness. And by the way, this is a very, very important concept because we know that God does judge us based on how we behave with each other. This takes us to the very famous commandment in the Torah, one of the most famous commandments in the Torah, so well known, in fact, that many of the religions claim that it is their saying. They don't even know that it's written in the Holy Torah. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the one that Rabbi Yaaqob says, Ze kelal gadol b'Torah. Now, you know what I'm talking about. He says, this is a major rule in the Torah. Rabbi Yaaqob said, of course, I'm speaking about you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. In Divrei Hayim, it says that this is the same commandment as what Hillel said. You know the story about Hillel. The man goes to Shammai and says, I want to stand on one leg, and you teach me the whole Torah. He says, get out of here. I'm going to smack you with this. So he goes to Hillel and says, I'm going to stand on one leg. By the way, you know what I'm sorry I'm digressing, but you know what I read about standing on one leg? I read that it is a sign as to whether a person might be getting Alzheimer's in the future. They say if a person can stand on one leg for more than 20 seconds without any problem, that's good. If they can't, they should be checked more regularly for, the potential of having strokes, which is what usually leads to it. It's astonishing. Anyway, I practiced after I read that. Thank God I passed. In any case, no, please, everybody sit down. Don't try it right now. All right, so this guy goes to Hillel. He says, teach me the whole Torah. And what does Hillel tell him? We know what he tells him. He says, don't do to anybody what you wouldn't want somebody to do to you. And this is, as he says, this is the whole Torah. This is the whole Torah. He says, the rest is just perush. The rest is just explanation. Go and learn. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that this is the whole Torah. You only have to do that and not worry about the rest. No, you go learn, and then you learn all the other things. But the concept is that this is kol Torah kula. This is the basic concept in the Torah. So in the Rebbe Mordechai it says this is actually the same commandment as ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. The difference is the way it's said in ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It's a positive commandment. It's a maswat aseh. Whereas this is the opposite. This is a don't do. Don't do this. Don't do to somebody else what you wouldn't want them to do. All right. So now we have here this very, very important concept in Judaism. In fact, the nations of the world are borrowing it from us, that we have to love each other like we love ourselves. It's actually very difficult. You have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to have self-esteem. If you don't have good self-esteem, you will have difficulty thinking that another person is a good person. It was said in the Gemara of Yebamot that Rabbi Akiva, who said that this is a kelal gadol but Torah, this is a very great rule in the Torah, it is said that he had 12,000 pairs of disciples. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. 12,000 pairs of disciples. Pairs. They would learn together. It's 24,000 disciples. And they all died at the same time. Why? Because they didn't give each other honor. They didn't treat each other with respect. Wait a minute. It doesn't say they used to steal from each other. It doesn't say that they used to go around murdering. It doesn't say that, anything of the sort. It says they didn't treat each other with honor or respect, one or the other, however you want to translate kabod. There's a difference of opinion as to when they actually died. That's also one of the reasons why Sephardim don't listen to music till the 34th day of the Omer. That means 34th day, a few days. Not sure what day it is right now. My mind is not focused on it. And also that is why Ashkenazim listen to music from the 33rd day of the Omer, because of the slight difference of opinion. But everybody agrees with this basic concept. Now, they didn't treat each other with respect, but they were incredible Talmidei Hachamim. Incredible Talmidei Hachamim, who were not liars and cheats and murderers and the like. And 24,000 of them had to die? How do we explain that? It says in Pirkei Avot that the world stands, Ha'olam omed al shelosha devarim, on three things, meaning three pillars. And those three pillars are Torah, which is translated as Torah, Avodah, which we'll translate as serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Gemilut Hasadim, doing loving kindness for each other. How many pillars does the world stand on? 3. If the world stood on 4, it's conceivable that you could remove one and the world would still stand. But the world stands on 3 pillars. Take away loving kindness, take away Gemilut Hasadim, and the world will collapse. The world cannot stand if there is no Torah, or no Avodah, or no Gemilut Hasadim. That is the seriousness of this transgression. And we know that God deals with Talmidei Hachamim much more strictly than he deals with the rest of us. But that is the reason for it. This is not something small. This is the leaders of the Jewish people removing one of the pillars on which the world would stand. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously said to himself, I cannot allow my world to collapse on account of it. But there's an additional question. Rashi says that there are two kinds of commandments. There are commandments between man and God, and man and his fellow man. So why is Rabbi Akiva saying that this one of the behavior between man and his fellow man, why is this so great? One interesting explanation is that when it says Re'acha, this is referring to God, which we see from Mishlei. So this refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we say that you should not, you should love your Re'acha, we're saying your God. That's one explanation. Like you love yourself. What this is saying is that God is saying, don't go against what I've told you to do. Don't go against what I am saying, because you don't like it when people go against what you say. We should think about that. We don't like people going against what we say and what we want them to do. So God is saying, don't do that to me. However, one would think, putting that aside, that the Kilal Gadol, the really great rule, should be how we behave towards God. Surely that is more important. Ze Kilal Gadol b'Torah. What's the Kilal Gadol? How we behave to God, not so much how we behave to each other. Okay, that's important. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Borei Olam, the creator of the world, surely that's more important. What do we see, however? God says, I don't accept your prayers on Yom Kippur till you have appeased your neighbor. That's very big. We've sinned to God, and we come to God to ask for forgiveness. He says, don't even talk to me. I don't want to hear from you. First and foremost, rectify the wrong that you've done with your neighbor. Get his forgiveness. Another thing God says is, I destroyed my home, the holy temple, the holy Beit HaMikdash, because of you. Because you didn't get on with each other. Because of sinat hinam, baseless hatred. Wait a minute. Can we imagine that concept for one moment? That we would turn to somebody and say, I'm so upset with how you behaved with your neighbor, I'm going to come and burn my house down? You think we have to be out of our minds? But that's what God is saying. God is saying how you behave to each other is paramount. So we have to be very particular. Not only not to put down one another, but to be good to each other, to compliment each other, and not feel that because of some inadequacy in ourselves, that we feel something's lacking in ourselves, that we're going to put down the other person so that we'll feel at least they're no good and no better than I am. I want to tell you something that I believe that is going to grab your attention, but bear with me. I believe, it's my belief, that if a person is systematically nasty to another person, systematically tries to take another person down for whatever reason, the person who's doing this, he may not be Shomer Shabbat. He may eat Taref. He may be Shomer Shabbat. He may be a big Talmid Hacham. He may be keeping all the Maswot, the ones that we see anyway. My belief is that any Jew who systematically tries to take down another person does not believe in God. I got your attention. Now let me explain a little more. I'm not saying any time a person sins, they don't believe in God. Not at all. Let's try and put sins into 3 categories. You'll tell me, Rabbi, there's a lot more than 3 categories. I know. Yeah, I know too. but my mind can't hold more than 3 at the moment. So we say there's one kind of sin where a person is walking along the way and something just happens and he does something and then he regrets it and he feels terrible about it and he tries to rectify it or ask God for forgiveness. In no way am I saying that that person doesn't believe in God. Not in any shape or form. That person can believe totally in God. A moment of weakness. What could we equate it to? A person who's a good person goes into a store and for some reason, not thinking straight, puts something that's on the table for sale in their pocket. They get caught, or they don't get caught, but they regret it as soon as they've done it. And they rectify the wrong. However, it has to be taken care of. So we're not saying that is in this category at all. That person can be a firm believer in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The second kind of transgression is one where a person may repeat it, and may repeat it for a long length of time, but it's not le'achis. It's not to do it to be nasty about it. The person is addicted to it, whatever it might be. Like someone who's addicted to drugs. They don't want to do it. They see it's killing them. They see it's destroying their lives. They try to stop it. They go into rehab. The second they're out of rehab, they're taking the drugs again. They can't stop. It's driving them crazy because they know what's happening to them. And they don't want it, but they can't stop. So there's that kind of sin also. We definitely cannot say that that person doesn't believe in God because he's repeating the sin. If he can't stop, he can't stop. Hopefully he's trying. Hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help him and he'll get the strength to get over it. But there's a third kind. And that's the third kind. This third kind is when a person feels that the other person is in his way. What does that mean? In his way in terms of getting a promotion at work. In his way in terms of making a deal, which will make him a lot of money. In his way, that person gets a lot more talmidim in his shiurim. It could be anything. But the person can't stand it, can't take it, and he systematically tries to take this guy down by saying bad things about him, spreading rumors about him, or doing things that will just generally make it bad for the person. He's not addicted. He's not, it's not a one-time thing. My feeling, and you can disagree, my feeling is that person cannot possibly believe in God. Even if he does all the masot. How can you believe in God and constantly do this? Shurithi Hashem lenerdi tamid. God is always there. If you believe in God, you know God is there. You have a weak moment. Okay, a weak moment. But then you get over that weak moment and you say, I can't keep doing this. But if a person keeps doing this, he wants to put the other guy down. He wants to stop the other guy at all costs. That guy, in my humble opinion, does not have God in his life. He may have or may not have external appearances of having, but it is not possible. A person has to say, God is there. God is in front of me. We're not Paro saying, who is God? We're not Pharaoh. We're the Jewish people. We know who God is. We have to have him in front of us at all times. We always have to have him in front of us. Tamid, at all times. If we do that, it is not possible to fall into category number 3. Number 1, yes, it is very possible. Number 2, yes, it is very possible. But in my humble opinion, number 3 is not possible. That if we constantly have God in front of us and believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that will not happen. Let's not forget, as long as we behave a certain way with our fellow man after a long life, God will behave with us in that way. I'm thinking for the positive, but it could also be for the negative. All right. That was a little heavy duty. I think I'm going to sit down. Someone else wants to give the rest of the lecture? Okay. So, making the world a better place means being nice to, being complimentary, and not to those you need something from only, because you want something from them. And when they do something good, you tell them it's good and you show that you appreciate it, but everybody, even people you don't know, and even the poor. It says in Sefer HaKadosh Benayahu, you see, it's going on the Gemara of Barachot, where Rabbi Eliezer was ill, and his Talmidim, his disciples, gathered around him, and they asked him to teach them what they needed to do in this world in order to get Olam Haba, in order to get the world to come. And he replied that they had to honor their colleagues. You know, it says in the Gemara of Ta'anit that obviously we have to honor our teachers, but we also have to honor our colleagues. Rabbi Hanina tells us, he says that he learned a lot of Torah from his teachers, but even more from his colleagues. Listen, we can all relate to that. You go to a school, you go to a yeshiva, you go wherever you go, the teacher is teaching and you're learning, but you learn much more by interacting with the other students and talking back and forth and understanding. That's where you really learn. So therefore, yes, you should treat your teacher with utmost respect, but you should also teach your fellow student, your colleagues in life, with the utmost respect. You also have to treat your employees with a lot of respect and compliment them, make them feel good. There's a story in Tochahat Hayim by Hacham Hayim Falaji alav shalom. He tells a story. He says he had a dream. He had a dream one night about a very wealthy individual from the town who had died about a month earlier. This town, Izmir, I guess, because he's from the town of Izmir in Turkey, and he was a great Hacham, as we know. This wealthy man, who was one of the wealthiest men in the town, had died, and he came to him in a dream. And in this dream, this wealthy man was wearing amazing clothes. Shesh Wameshi, silk clothes, looking absolutely wonderful. And Hacham Falaji asked him, he says, what did you do that you merited this great honor? Obviously, if he's standing there in this dream looking fabulous, it must be something good. He answered that he merited to receive Olam Haba, the world to come. So, Hacham Falaji wants to know how come. He says, because he didn't treat his servants harshly. And he's a very wealthy man. He could throw his weight around. He said he treated them with the utmost mercy, never making their responsibilities too difficult. Now look, this was a dream. Dreams can have some truth in them, but all dreams have something that's not true in them. Or it could be just a dream that's not telling you anything, just based on something that he was thinking about earlier during the day. So Hacham Falaji says, I have to investigate this. Because he obviously felt there was something in this dream, but he needed to know more, and he wasn't just going to take it at face value. So he went, and he must have asked people who, I don't know, maybe his former employees, maybe his family, maybe people who knew them. He goes to them and asks them, tell me about this man, tell me. And what he found out was that it was absolutely true. He behaved beautifully with everybody, and he never caused any kind of suffering or placed a burden that they couldn't carry to his servants. But he dealt with them, as he said, mercifully. This, I think, is clear proof that the way we deal with others is the way that the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu deals with us. You know, I've mentioned how you should deal with your colleagues, your teachers, your people who work for you. There's one more category, and that's the poor. The poor. It says in Ben Yehoyada, if you greet a friend, it tells us in the Gemara of Brachot, if you greet a friend and he doesn't greet you in return, you know what the Gemara says about him? He's considered to be a robber. So Hacham Yosef Haim alav shalom says, if you don't return the greeting of a rich, it's not such a big deal. Why? Because there's 100 people who are always greeting them. You know, oh, this rich guy, how are you today? Yes, sir. The 3 bags full, sir. Yes, oh, it's very nice. Yes, oh, can I help you with this? Maybe I'll get something out of it. So it's not a big deal. If you don't greet the rich, he doesn't notice. But the poor, on the other hand, he says, people scorn them. People look down on them. Not only that, they're worried if they say something to them, the guy says, could you help me? I need some money. So the guy runs away from them. Doesn't want to have anything to do with them. He says, you have to be very, very careful to return a poor person's greetings. Life has ups and downs. Everybody goes through it. If the time is shining for us, the sun is shining, and we see somebody else who is not doing so well, we have to learn from that. And we have to be good to that person. We have to be nice to that person. We have to treat that person with respect. If they do something for you, you have to show them gratitude. If they do something that is good, you have to compliment them. We must not be like a person in the story I'm about to tell you. There's a story about the Ibn Ezra. Of course, the great Hacham, Abraham ibn Ezra, alav shalom. And like many of the great Hachamim, he had good times and he had bad times. We spoke about Rabbi Akiba. Rabbi Akiba had some very, very hard times. He had some amazingly good times. And of course, we don't want to talk about how he passed away, being one of the Asra Harurei Malchut, one of the 10 martyrs, most horrific end. The Ibn Ezra was at one time very wealthy, and of course a great Hacham. So everybody wanted to invite him to eat at their table. All the rich people in town would invite him, they would come, and it would be great honor for them to have him come, and whenever he came, they would invite other Hachamim and other wealthy people to all come to the dinner that they prepared in his honor. Unfortunately, the same people who were honoring him when his mazal was shining shunned him when times took a turn for the worse. It was so bad that he didn't even have enough food to eat. One Friday, he was desperate. He went to one of the rich people's homes where he had been many times in the past when he was wealthy and things were going well for him, and he had to beg him and say, is it possible that you could give me some food to eat with you on Shabbat? Now, this wealthy man, I guess, turned up his nose. He looks at the Ibn Ezra in rags, and he tells his servant, you know what, put him at the end of the corridor over there. We can't have him eating with us, with my wife and my family. We can't have him, Shabbat's supposed to be a delight. We can't have this man in rags coming and sitting with us and upsetting us for Shabbat. The man was obviously very, very upset, and he decided to do something about it. After Shabbat was over, he went up to him, he thanked him profusely and said, by the way, I noticed that you have a wonderful daughter. I suppose you're looking for someone to marry her. He said, yes, she's an exceptional person, but it's hard to find someone of her caliber. It's very, very hard. He says, tell me, what are you looking for? He says, it has to be someone who is very special, both spiritually and physically, because she's beautiful and she's a wonderful person. The Ibn Ezra says to him, I know just such a man. I will bring him to you. He went out and looked around. He found a laborer, a man who was hacking stones on the mountainside. Very tall, very good looking. And he said to him, can you take a few days off work and come with me? Afterwards, he says, you're going to be very rich. You won't need to work anymore. The guy looks at him. He says, okay. He says, but I'm warning you, don't open your mouth. Don't say a word. Okay, so he, freshens him up, makes him look good, and they go to this rich man's house. And he says, what do you think? He says, wow, he's tall, he's handsome. He says, that's right. He says, but why isn't he saying anything? He says, oh, he's very holy, he's doing ta'anith debur. So the rich man says, how am I going to test him? He says, don't worry. I want you to prepare a room for him, a private room just for him, and he must have a lot of sefarim, a lot of religious books in the room. You ask me the question, I will go, I will get the answer from him, and I will come out and tell you. Okay. So he asks him a question, difficult question. He goes in, he comes out with the answer. Another more difficult question. Same thing. He's really impressed. He invites all the Hachamim of the town to come, and they all come, and they're all asking questions. The Ibn Ezra runs into the room and runs out again with the question. So at the end of this, when everybody agrees that this is the right person for his daughter, he calls his daughter and says, take a look at him. What do you think? She goes, oh, and he's a Talmid Hacham. Let's go. So as soon as they can, they organize the erusin. In those days, they didn't do the whole wedding on the chuppah in one shot. First the erusin, and later on the rest. So they're planning the erusin, and they have this big celebration. All the rich people of the town, all the hachamim of the town, everybody comes, and they all meet him. And the hachamim are talking to him, and he's not saying anything. At this point, the hachamim are saying to the father, there's something wrong here. The father goes up to the young man and he said, "Why did you cheat us?" He said, "Me? I didn't say a word." So he went to the Ibn Ezra. He said, "Why did you cheat us? It's all your fault." He says, "It's my fault? It's all about you. It's your fault. When I was rich, you couldn't wait to have me at your table. Now that I don't have any money, look at how you treat me." He said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'm sorry, forgive me. I'll try and make it up to you. But what do I do now? This is such an embarrassment." The Ibn Ezra said to him, "Go ahead with the wedding. Go ahead with Yerusin. And I promise you, I will teach him, and he'll become a big Talmid Chacham." In fact, that's what happened. I've heard it said that the way you treat a difficult friend is the way you treat your boss. That's how you have to treat him. And how should you treat this difficult friend? The way you treat your boss. Ignore his behavioral lapses. Praise his accomplishments. And above all, avoid telling him that his brain is not functioning properly. If it's good for your boss, it's good for your friend. I hope that we will learn from this that really it is about us. We want the world to be a better place. We have to lead by example. We have to be happy with ourselves. We have to be grateful that we're in this world. Look at all the positives that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for us, all the mercies that He's doing for us, and do the best that we can in this world, and really look at the other person in admiration, because everybody is doing something positive in this world. Look for it, compliment them on it, and hopefully with that zechut, HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't make us wait here much longer, but will bring us the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, v'et kam b'merav b'yameinu, v'chen yirason u'mar amen.